Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Me, You, and Who. Today, we're sharing some of our favorite moments from our 2024 episodes. This year has been nothing short of incredible. As we look back, we're so grateful for the opportunity to educate, support, and ultimately help create happy families here at Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions. It's been an honor to walk alongside you, our listeners, our clients, and our amazing community on this journey. Over the past year, we've had so many insightful conversations, shared countless stories, and learned from some truly inspiring guests. And while this is a celebration of 2024, we're even more excited about what's to come in 2025. So, whether you're tuning in as a hopeful parent, a surrogate, an egg donor, or simply someone interested in this extraordinary process, thank you for being part of our journey this season. So, please enjoy some of the best moments of 2024. Me, you, and who? Who knew it would take more than two people to have a baby? In a world where infertility is no longer a taboo topic, this podcast will take you through all of the different aspects of surrogacy and egg donation through the lens of many who walk this journey in different ways. My name is Whitney Hall, and I am a two-time surrogate, now turned surrogacy coordinator for Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions, the very agency I used when I chose to carry for two amazing families. With this podcast, it is our goal to help guide and support you as you learn about what it takes to grow a family in an alternative way, as well as hear inspiring and beautiful stories of how this path has changed lives forever. We can't wait for you to hear about just one more way happy families are created every day.
Saying is like you have to match with someone who like wants the same things, right?
Yeah.
Like
and Surrogate Solutions does such a good job of that.
And like I
Thanks, you guys.
wanted
Yeah.
a relationship with my surrogate because like it's part of my kid's story, right? Like
Yes.
it's my daughter's story that she knows everything, how she got here. And like if you're not like I wanted Caitlin to be a part of her life, like moving forward, not just like, and I think that's really important because like there are definitely like some intended parents that don't want that. I don't know why. And there are some surrogates that don't want that, right? So like I think it's like so important to make sure you're on the same page with like your match.
Yeah.
Which is why you need an agency like Surrogate Solutions because like it is so it would have been a horrible experience if we were not on the same page about things. Like and like we got that out. Everything was out like at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Like in our initial Zoom call, like we talked about everything.
Oh, I love that. Well, Jackie, you're so right. And I know you had said it previously, like it was really important for you to, have somebody that had similar political views and gave you the ability to, like you wanted to have agency in just, if anything medical happened and like you wanted to be a part of that conversation. And that's huge. And I think, like, it is so important. That's why, I say like it's a bucket. It's not a list. And it is like, you do get the ability to, narrow down those big, important things, like termination, vaccination, all of those, and then some. And then you get to find out, do we mesh? Do we gel? What does that look like? And for you guys, I mean, I know, so not only did you guys want to have that close relationship, and you did, but you didn't even let geography get in the way of that. So like, like you guys are on opposite ends of the country.
2,700-ish miles apart, I think.
Yeah. Okay. What did that look like? How did that, how did we make this happen?
We didn't mention, Caitlin, like the thing that like really matched us.
This is our favorite thing. Well, Foo Fighters, Lauren,
oh my God, I love it.
Like, shout out Lauren. Lauren does such a good job. I remember my first meeting with her. I picked some profiles, did the 1 through 5. What I love about Surrogate Solutions is we talked about it. And we talked about what we really wanted. And she's like, okay, I know you did this. Like, I know you marked these, but I know that's not what they want. I know that XYZ is not what they want. She's like, I got this single mom. She's like, I'm going to put her in a few other profiles. I talked with her earlier. I'm listening to what you're saying. And so I looked at them and yeah, I was like, "Oh my gosh, Ty," my husband, I was like, "Ty, she likes Foo Fighters." I'm like, "I love Foo Fighters." I was like, "This is great. This is wonderful." And I had told Jackie in the match meeting, I was like, "This really stood out to me." And she's like, "I knew it." She's like, "I knew the person that I would find that that's what would stick out to them."
I swear, because I put in my profile, like, I love the Foo Fighters and I wanna be BFF with Dave Grohl. And
Mhm.
I
Oh
knew in
my
my mind,
gosh.
I'm like, it's gonna stand out to someone. Like, I knew
Yep,
it.
My
that's me.
person, that's gonna be it. Oh
Yeah.
my
Yes.
gosh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's
But
hilarious.
talk about distance, like, that's like, I then, like, I think what was it, like, at the beginning of the pregnancy, we saw that Foo Fighters were coming to, Spokane. And I'm like, and I worked it around my like, we were supposed to go see the hospital,
Mhm.
but due to COVID, they weren't doing tours.
Okay.
So, but I was like, "I'm coming still." Like, and,
Anyways,
it wound up being, like, the best thing ever. Like, we
yeah,
went
sh
to see
we
the Foo
like,
Fighters.
together.
Oh my
It was
gosh, that's
it
so
was like a
cute.
full circle of everything, and I told my husband, I was like, "I'm gonna wait to look at another agency again." I waited a week
Mhm.
before I applied at Surrogate Solutions, and I talked to Amber, and everything was night and day difference. Everything has been night and day difference. I don't know. I hear other podcasts, I hear other surrogates, and I'm like, "Wow, I, like, got the cream of the crop. Like, this is the best agency." But yeah, I'm
Oh.
really glad everything that led me to Surrogate Solutions. And then the previous agency, I had gotten off some medications and they weren't gonna wait, they didn't care. They're like, "Yep, send you through whatever." But Surrogate Solutions was like, "No, we'll wait 3 months." And what's funny about that is I had to wait 2 extra months after I
Uh-huh.
applied, and I think if I wouldn't have had to wait that 2 months, I would not have matched with Jackie because Jackie was with Surrogate Solutions for, like, 3 weeks, and
Yeah.
we wouldn't have matched.
No.
Oh my gosh.
We would
Oh
have
my
missed each
gosh.
other.
Oh, and we can't imagine
Mm,
that. Absolutely not.
no, I
No.
Yes.
can't. I can't
No.
imagine.
No. It really it was so, oh my gosh, it was so meant to be. And I know those bumps are so hard, especially when you're going, like, when you're feeling all of those like awful feelings and, as you're going through something, wanting to do something so amazing. But oh my gosh, I'm so glad that that all worked out. And I'm so glad you had such an amazing experience just at the beginning of everything, especially after you had gone through everything
Mhm.
Yeah.
that you went through. So, okay, Jackie, I know like you were only hanging out in matching land for like 3 weeks. It was amazing. But
It was crazy. Yeah.
yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Cause I know we like kind of give it can be 6 months to a year and we
Mhm.
take our time. And Caitlin, you're right. Like we do things different. It's not the list. It's not your number 25 and you're matched with number
Mhm.
25 or like that kind of thing. We really do try and find the right person.
So it kind of became a joke years and years ago. Really, truly, I'm not kidding. It was just like funny things my friends and I would do for money. I was like early 20s. And so I actually grew up with a friend who was an egg donor. And
Oh, how
so,
cool.
yeah. And so years later, my mom and I ended up chatting and she was like, did you know so and so was an egg donor? And I was like, no, is that how she was able to travel? Like I'm not kidding you. Like travel, just everything, all sorts of stuff. Go to
Yeah.
paid for go back to school, all these things. And so she's like, you should reach out to her. So I was like, we'll see. Well, somehow somebody magically beat me to it, and actually who donated through Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions and contacted me. She was like, you should be an egg donor. And I was like, that's so weird because I was actually just thinking about this. And
Oh my gosh, how funny.
yeah. And so I'll be a little bit more transparent. I'm a single mom, and how I I mean, I'll just be honest, I got pregnant on a one night stand and I was like, oh, okay, this is, you know, not
It's
everybody is
happening.
as fortunate. And so it was one of those like being a
Yeah.
single mom and my son, and I co-parent, and there's just so many things that I was just like, it was a beautiful blessing. And I was like, there's so many families out there that married or unmarried that are, this is what they want and it's not happening for them.
Mhm.
And so I was like, why not? I kind of feel I don't want to have another kid. I feel like I'm being selfish. And so let's just do it. It took me about 2 months to submit my application. I was going really back and forth about it. My family was so excited. They were like, "Do it. This is so your forte." And I did, and I got accepted, and it was the best thing I ever did.
And then Sarah, how did you find us?
I think Google, and I think I did a lot of vetting to make sure y'all weren't like a pyramid scheme or anything.
Oh,
Um,
that's what I thought. That's so funny.
yeah,
But I
I
went to
think
high school with the girls, so
exactly, and I remember distinctly, like, I was around my girlfriends, and it's so funny now, like, I mean, I donated, um, almost 8 years ago now,
Mm-hmm.
8, I think, and I think just being at that, like, quintessential age when when you think you're an adult a little bit, and now looking back, you realize
yeah.
you weren't, and and you have, like, all of your, like, knucklehead friends that are the same way, and, distinctly remember all of us sitting around my computer, like, trying to go through and do, like, the FBI thing that girls do where they're like, "Okay, well, let's find out everything about this place. Let's just make sure, because like, we don't also want you to get murdered
Yeah.
somewhere."
Sure. Well, and
Um
it's 8 years ago internet too, so like there's only
Yeah.
so much you can do.
Wait,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Sarah, how old were you when you donated?
I was 22 when I actually donated. I
22.
just turned
I was
22.
considered an old donor. I donated at 28.
Oh,
And
really?
I'll be honest, I look back at, the requirements and I was not in the same mindset. I could not have done that at 22.
I think for me, it was like, you know, I knew that I wanted to do a career where it was gonna require me to be in more school. I knew it was gonna require
Mm-hmm.
something that
Yeah.
I just personally, um and again, like, obviously, like, have the age at which you wanna have children or how it happens or the place you're at when you start this journey, I think is so personal. There's no right or wrong decision with it.
Very
But
much
I knew
Mm-hmm.
for me, at least, it was something that, like, I wasn't in the mindset to be a parent. And it was
so.
something that, again, it wasn't obviously that I was against, but it was something that I knew I was healthy. I knew,
Yeah.
with, you know, I had enough, I think, knowledge and understanding, through friends and through family, um, and hopefully a little bit of empathy, I think, just to understand that, fertility is not this, for some, so for some, it's like, quick, good and go.
Yeah.
Doesn't take much, but for
Mm-hmm.
others, it's so much more. I think it's so, I am, and again, I say this now, still not having children, but I think still so deeply personal,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I
can be
agree.
painful. And I, I think at that time that was something that I didn't know much, but I knew that,
Yeah. Well,
That's so
you
and
know.
gosh,
it's so unique. I love that. I love hearing that.
yeah. And again, like 8 years ago, I think so much has changed in the
Yeah.
industry from then to now.
So
And
much. Yeah.
so many things are different and people are talking about it more and just things like that. And so I think it's huge that, you guys did this at that time,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and all of that. No, that's absolutely amazing. Okay, so you were vetting us, Sarah, and decided that we were not a pyramid scheme. And so, yay. And I'm so glad.
That is funny. That is funny because I low key felt kind of the same way, but I was like, "Oh, wait for someone
I
else to
think
say."
everyone's just got to check it a little bit. It's like vetting a guy. It's like just vetting someone if you ever, like, go on a date, and you just got to make sure.
Sure.
You just got to check the LinkedIn. You got to check the receipts and things. And
You're a wise woman. You're a
as I
wise woman.
Absolutely.
as I end up on a podcast with y'all.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and
Well,
then did all the
it's interesting too because I feel like especially now I've seen, people trying to match like independently, like on Facebook groups and things like that. And, that to me, I mean, I'm mostly in surrogacy land. And so when I think egg donation, I'm like that. I mean, both of them, honestly, I'm just like, that is so Wild West, y'all.
So I tell everybody, like that's what I do love about egg donor and surrogate solutions. Like it's fresh versus frozen. So
Mm-hmm.
I had friends that
Mm-hmm.
have actually donated to banks, and I'm like, you couldn't pay me money to donate to a bank.
Yeah. What makes you say that?
You're kind of I know you're a number. I know. You get the egg donor number, like I get that. But you just kind of donate to the bank and they're like, bye. And then they freeze your eggs and somebody can go shopping in the next 10 years. Like what I loved about egg donor solutions is I didn't feel like a number. I was a number,
You're I was
but
gonna say you're a number
but
because
I was valued. I was
right, but
valued
you
so
weren't
much.
uh-huh.
Yes. Like I know that like
care coordinator who I still love, and I do have to email you back, Melissa. I promise I will. Okay. I have not forgotten about you, Melissa.
Shout out to you, Melissa.
That's my girl. That's my girl.
I love it. I
But
love
she
it.
made me feel so special and valued. And even if I had never known my IPs or anything had been in communication, I still always felt valued by you guys 110%.
It wasn't easy finding a surrogate.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and a lot of it was just trial and error and just kind of figuring my way around things. Now, in hindsight, I can just say what really worked is just finding someone that I'm comfortable with. So just as me being the intended mother in this scenario, finding a gestational carrier or surrogate, just someone who I feel like I can work with, someone whose views are aligned with mine in terms of pregnancy, in terms of the way she saw things. That was the most important aspect. I'm not that type of person that, I need to call her and tell her what she should eat or shouldn't eat or those types of things. I just wanted to pick someone that I trust and that she would treat this pregnancy as if it was hers, and I found that person.
Yeah. Oh, and that's huge. That trust factor is huge. Ultimately, you mentioned in the book, you saw so many profiles. I think it was 12, you said, until you found.
It was probably about a dozen profiles.
Yeah. Yeah. Until you found Kayla. What helped you? Did you kind of start the process of, okay, I'm looking at this very medically. Let's, what are the factors that I can kind of, for lack of a better word, control in an uncontrollable situation, right? How did you get from there to what you just said, where ultimately it was just about comfort? And what was comfort for you?
There was a lot of it. So I did look at it from a medical aspect because I needed to be comfortable with the medical aspect first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then once the comfort with the medical aspect was there, then it was just about finding the right match in terms of personality. And I think it just, you find the right person. It's like trying to date someone. You have like a long laundry list of things, and really the person you end up with may not fit everything in that long laundry list. But yet that person turns out to be the perfect person. So it's kind of like that.
How is egg donation going to affect my own fertility?
Okay, you would think that I would be better at sports for as many sports analogies as I have. But go with me. We're gonna have another sports analogy.
Let's go. Okay? Let's do it. Yes. Okay. Hey, my husband's a coach, so I'm always here for it.
There you go. You would think I would have some background. So your ovaries. You are born with a set number of eggs, but they're not all hanging out at the same time. Every month, your body puts out a team of eggs. Okay. Mm-hmm. If we lost one egg a month, girl, we would never do this menopause thing, right? We would never have to. No, we would have enough forever if we just lost one. But no one's losing one egg a month. Every month you have a team of eggs. And then our body goes down, it selects your all-star, your A-team player, and you ovulate that, but you lose your whole team of players. And the next month you get a whole new set of bench warmers to work with for that team of players. So with egg donation, all I'm doing is trying to take better advantage of all the players that are available on your team that month. And so you're still going to have your next set of bench warmers and team players for the next month. I'm just taking available what is in that month anyway. Make sense?
Oh, that makes a ton of sense. That makes sense. So in layman's terms, what does the process look like of going and getting those bench warmers?
Good question. So think of a normal period cycle. I always tell people my goal is to try to take what your body does in a normal cycle and just give everyone a participation medal and make everyone participate.
In this area, we love participation medals.
So that's what we're doing. So in an egg donation cycle for the donors, they get a period. I usually line up their eggs with a little birth control. I tell people that's me yelling at your ovaries, being like, line up. It's like being in kindergarten, being told to line up and get in a line, right? Absolutely. So we yell at the ovaries, get them lined up. And then your body makes enough hormones to grow one egg. And then what I do is I give your body the same hormones through small injections of the exact same hormones that you make to grow one egg, and my goal is to just grow many. And we follow this same 2-week time course, monitoring how you're responding during that time course. And then around the time your body would be like, oh, I've done this, I'm ready to ovulate, that's when I have all those eggs and I go in and do an egg retrieval and take them out. So I'm just trying to take a normal period cycle, amplify it to grow as many eggs as are available in your ovaries in that month, and then retrieve them and take them out.
Hi, Jennifer. Well, I met my husband later in life, so we already had like a check mark against us, I guess, going in. When we decided to have a baby, we tried like naturally, nothing worked. So after about a year, I headed out to see a fertility specialist. Tried a few, like 2 rounds of IUI, and then as we were gonna go into IVF, my doctor told me I had low egg reserve. And he said that it would be possible to get some eggs, but it would probably take many rounds of IVF. And I just wanted a family. I didn't care. So I just asked them about egg donation. I didn't even bother trying with my eggs. I didn't want to waste time. So to me, genetics doesn't make you a family. Like love and the wanting of a baby does. So like it didn't even cross my mind. A lot of people in my circle were kind of freaked out about why would you not even try? Because I just wanted a family. That's why, and I didn't want to waste another year or 2 of my time. So I started looking before kind of talking to my fertility doctor, and Egg Donor Solutions popped up, because I kind of knew where I was going, and I picked my donor before actually talking to them about it. So when I went into
You came in prepared.
so when I saw my IVF coordinator, she sat down, she's very like, okay, so this is what's going to have to happen. And I was like, listen, I just want a bleeping baby. So like, what do we do? Here we go. You said Egg Donor Solutions you're tied with. Here's her number. See if she's available. And we became good friends after. But she was just like, I've never met a mother who's like, because they go in really with white gloves, and I'm like, who cares? It's genetics. Just like, bring it on.
I think it's, anytime that, you sort of have a vision in your head of what, I'm going to get married and I'm going to have a baby and it's going to be a little bit me, a little bit of my husband. And for me, I really had to grieve the loss of that genetic connection. But one thing that I've realized, I think the big thing I've realized is that it really doesn't matter that who your children are, they come pre-programmed for the most part. And the family in which they're raised in and, their environment influences kind of who they become. And, we grew these babies, all their skin, their blood, all of that, we grew and nurtured and there's no difference in my experience in mothering or parenting the children that I don't have a genetic relation to versus the one that I do. But there was, I really had to sort of grieve that the way that we made our family was different than how I thought it was going to be.
Absolutely. I think we all come into just, our path growing, whether it's, marriage or partnership or, and we have that vision. And it's just like you said, Carrie, you were going to go down one path and then you had to divert one way and now you're diverting another way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, it's those high highs and low lows with the roller coaster, and then it's grieving all of those different things.
Yeah.
We as an agency, while, we really, really advocate for that idea of the known donor option on the egg donation side. I know that's not necessarily able to be available to everybody based off of certain laws and parentage laws and things like that. But as a DCP, why is that known donor portion of things so important?
For me, at least, when I was searching for the egg donor that my parents used, I just wanted to know who she was, right? I wanted to know what she was like. And obviously, I wanted the medical history as well. That was really important. And it was one of many things that I was looking for. Like, I really was curious to know like what she looked like.
Yeah.
Because there are really no women in my family period that are related to me, at least, like that I can look at and go, that's my face, you know? And just, I kind of like internet like crept on her a little bit before I actually contacted her, as you do. I learned a lot of things about her just from that, like how, like a lot of shared interests that we have, a lot of like just the ways that our brains work and the ways that like we talk about things. She's very nerdy, very like really liked writing, kind of artistic, but also sciencey. And I was like, wow, that's me. And that was just really cool. And it wasn't because I wanted like a replacement mommy, right? That was never that mindset was never part of it. I just was really curious about her to understand more about myself. And I kind of wanted to know if I did have other siblings out there too, because I thought that would be kind of cool. I've yet to find any. It doesn't mean they're not out there. It just means that I haven't found any. So that's where I'm at right now. On the plus side, like I've never really had the grief of thinking, oh, I've been robbed of all this time with someone. But really, and I see that in a lot of donor conceived people too. Like they just want to understand more about themselves. You know, like they're not looking to like, you know, fill a missing void of like, I never like, you know, I want you to be my parent and like play dolls with me or something like, that's not the mindset. Like it's really just to learn more about yourself.
It seems like you were just like, we're just ready to grow our family. And you weren't even like, I mean, how did you even navigate? Like, how did you even know to like go to an egg donor website? Like, how did you even navigate all of that?
Well, basically through the infertility clinic. Tim and I kind of knew in the very back of our heads, especially after the first round of IVF didn't work, that maybe we might have to move forward with an egg donor. And of course, like many women, I was not ready. I didn't want to do that yet. But then after the second round, I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. I'm, you know, very realistic. We're both nurses, so we both kind of know how things roll. Like, so after the second round, I was pretty like, okay, if I want to be a mother, I need to accept this. So I did my mourning, I'm not going to have a child with my own eggs, and then just moved on. I was like, I want to be a mom, and this is how it's going to happen, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was excited, and I think it's a hard thing to navigate, to be mourning and be excited at the same time. But I think it also kind of balances, it kind of helps your mourning process, because it wasn't the end, it was like a beginning.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful.
So like it wasn't a complete failure that I couldn't have kids with my own eggs. It was just a step. And the next step was to move forward with egg donation. And so that's what we did. And actually after we picked our egg donor, I naturally got pregnant again and we miscarried. And that kind of just confirmed that, yes, we're making the right decision. Like after 3 rounds of IVF, 2 miscarriages, like this just isn't going to happen for us. And so it kind of, in a way, was a blessing to be like, yeah, we're totally making the right decision. Let's move forward. And Tim and I even had the conversation of, well, if this pregnancy is a success, do we want to still move forward? And Tim was adamant. But yes, we're moving forward with this, because regardless what happens, we want to have more than one kid, and we're probably going to have to use an egg donor for, you know, a second child if this continues to be, you know, a problem. You're going to be older. So even with that pregnancy, we were still going to move forward with our egg donor.
Yeah, absolutely. And then amidst all of that, now you're trying to, okay, we still want to grow our family. What was that? I mean, you already said you're talking to the doctors and the advisors and everything like that. How are you and Tom even just discerning all of that all at once?
Yeah, I mean the advisors were very helpful, because you know this, if you're grieving or if you've experienced trauma, you're not thinking clearly.
Yeah.
And we knew we were not thinking. There was a season where I felt like I couldn't drive because my brain was just not functioning appropriately. So I wished at the time we could have had 2 years to heal and then make this decision. We're old. We didn't have that luxury. So we could not wait that long. And so just finding a group of people that we love and trust. Some were family members, some were coworkers who were a little bit further down the road than us. Some had fertility struggles and some hadn't, but they were all people who made wise decisions in their own life and who loved us enough to tell us what we did or didn't want to hear. And so we sent them all a letter and said, we're never going to remind you of this. So if you decide not to answer, that is okay, but we're not going to ask you over and over. You can let this slide because this is a big life decision. But if you choose to weigh in, it would mean a lot to us. And we sent them all the research, and several called us with follow-up questions. Some came to our house to sit down with us and said, I want to understand more. And at the end of all of it, they all said the same thing. And it was so good for us, feeling like we were on shaky ground, going, I don't think I'm thinking clearly. What do you say? Because there was a part of me that thought, maybe I should carry again. Maybe I should try it. Maybe it's selfish to not try it. And I wasn't thinking clearly enough to go, hey, they told you there's a 70% chance you're going to die in this. I wasn't.
That's big stuff. Yeah. That's a big statistic right there.
But the people who love us enough to say, hey, we're not going to let you make a choice that's going to harm you. We think this is the right way to go, and we're going to be with you every step of the way. And so, honestly, I learned everything I could about surrogacy, and part of it was listening to podcasts just like this one and listening to episode after episode of what works and what doesn't. And I remember there was a particular doctor on a podcast, I could not tell you which one, who said, if you're willing to stick with it long enough, you will take home a baby. Statistically, it's going to happen. And I just thought, okay, I think I can stick with it long enough. If we have a loss, because I was thinking, oh my gosh, what if we do surrogacy? What if we have a loss? Foreshadowing, we did. If you just keep going, you will eventually have a baby, and that was so helpful for me.
So it was interesting. You said, 1 in 8 individuals who are trying to have a family are going to need some form of assistance when it comes to, fertility. And yet it still feels, when I'm talking to anybody, one of the biggest things they always say is I felt so alone through the process, or I didn't necessarily know anybody that was going through it. And so, there's this big push, National Infertility Awareness Week, there's this big push to try and make this less taboo and have people talk about it. So what would you say, being in it, or, as long as you have, what changes have you seen with just the awareness factor?
Yeah, I mean, there's big changes. That's another side of it. Even when the science isn't changing, just the evolution of how people talk about fertility has changed over the last 2 decades. So I think first and foremost, it is certainly, in my opinion, not taboo anymore. I do think 20 years ago, it might have had a little bit of taboo behind it that we had to do fertility treatments. I hope that people don't carry that feeling anymore. And I hope certainly no one feels that way about couples who need to do fertility treatments. But I think that, lots of celebrities have engaged in the reproductive medicine, talking about their own journeys, whether it's a miscarriage, whether it's IVF or egg freezing, which has really shed light on the subject. Social media has really helped in terms of support groups and talking about it, and maybe not, this comfort level of talking about your own medical care. I have to go have this procedure done is kind of hard. And if you have someone really close in your life, friends that you can talk to, great, but they might not be able to relate. But behind a social media platform maybe gives you just enough comfort that you can ask a question to someone and talk about it, but not feel like you're disclosing your personal medical care. And so social media, I think, has been great. Obviously, we all know it has its downsides too. Because,
double-edged sword.
Of course. I'm every day having to talk to somebody who was referred to our practice or just active in the social media that hears a story about a test or a way of doing fertility that maybe they want to try, but as soon as you talk to them about why it might have worked for one person versus the other. But that outlet has been great. I think it's amazing how many moms groups that are out there in terms of social media or even just in the community. If someone wants to see a fertility doctor and asks, any recommendations, in the past, nobody would have a problem recommending a dentist or a pediatrician to their friend.
Sure.
A lot of people would have a hard time saying, oh, well, I saw this fertility doctor or that. And now when someone asks, usually on a mom's group or social media, I mean, everybody is commenting, I saw so-and-so, they're great. I, got pregnant doing this or that. And I don't think people wanted to talk about that as much in the past, but I think now, and especially after you have a child, it's a lot easier to talk about it, right? I think while you're going through the process, people still are a little bit reserved because the uncertainty of whether it's going to work or not.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people are concerned about talking about going through fertility treatments, knowing it may not work. Whereas, if after the fact and you have a child in hand and now you feel very much like
how the story ends.
And know how the story ends. And I think at that point is when you really become an advocate for other people to go out and seek care, because you see the fruits of that labor and you want others to be able to achieve the same goals. So
yeah, absolutely. So as you're starting on this journey and you yourself have these 2 middle school boys, how did you navigate explaining the process to them? And then how did they navigate it with, their friends?
Yeah, they learned a lot. That's for sure. They
learned a lot.
I think one time they watched my husband give me the injection, and
sure,
my youngest one, he's like, yeah, I don't want to ever see that again. The needle's a little too long. But no, they were great, actually. I mean, like I said, they learned a lot. We definitely involved them in the whole process. And a lot of their friends, they see me pregnant, and they're like, "Oh,
sure.
Your mom's pregnant. You having a brother or a sister?" And they're like, "Well, here's what's going on." Yeah. So their friends thought it was really cool, and they got to kind of teach their friends everything about it and how it all works and everything else. But yeah, they were great, and I think, especially my youngest one, he's always been, I always said he'd make a phenomenal big brother, So him having these 3, surrogate siblings is what we call them.
Sure.
He loves that. He really does. And but they were great. Their friends were great. And, we'd be walking through the mall, all 4 of us, and I'd be pregnant, and we'd get some funny looks like,
oh sure,
wow, that's a mistake, You've got these 2, almost teenage boys.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So
but little did they know.
Right, exactly.
There it was in my closet when I opened it up.
Kristen.
And I'm going through and I saw that sweatshirt and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I now know the real reason behind this sweatshirt. Like I just got the chills because how random that I would buy this sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And I put it on and I was like, London is the reason I'm going to keep going and I will become a mom to a baby on Earth. London is the reason I will help so many future mommies and daddies become parents and not give up. London is the reason that my surrogate will be able to continue on with life, even though she is deaf. Like the reasoning just behind London is the reason is endless.
So during that time, I mean, obviously you had already been through so much. How did you kind of navigate your own process as hey, this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to grow our family. What were kind of some of those feelings coming from all that?
I have had the privilege to walk with other people as they have gone through it. And when I look back at myself, I think wow, you really, you really didn't wait a lot. I think that was my grief, the old prayer, like, when you're praying, move your feet. I think I just was like, okay, so like, what am I supposed to do next? Like, I want a baby. I know I want a baby. The grief process was happening anyway. I was like, I can just sit here with the grief, or I can do something while I'm sitting here with the grief. So for me, I was just like, what's the next step? The next step, the next step. I think I also was a little naive into what it was. And so it was like, I couldn't really worry that far down the path because I was just doing what they told me to do next. And it wasn't all, super easy. Yeah, when I was rereading our blog and stuff, Will and I were like, oh my gosh, I forgot that happened. Which is, God's way of healing you to be able to move forward. My mom has 5 kids, and she says that she always forgot that she said she would never do it again until she's in labor. And then she's like, oh, I said I was never going to do this again. And then immediately you forget, right? And then you're back. So I think that's kind of what God does to you after he fulfills his promise. And we got our family. But so I think for me, the grief was, as I was grieving, I was just doing the next action step. I would just focus on what the next action step was for me. And, things didn't align perfectly every time, but as long as I felt like there was something I was doing next, it felt like we could do it. It felt like something that we definitely wanted to do. There was a time when we thought, this wasn't for us. We were actually, and maybe I'm going too fast, but there was a time we were matched. And that the person that we were matched with, we met her. She was great. We were excited. And then our IVF doctor declined her as a surrogate. And that was just completely gutting for us. We were like, we're doing the next steps. And then this person didn't pass the screening and from our fertility doctor. And I actually found in the blog when it happens, and it's going to make me cry, but so she and then this is how we ended up getting Katie, is that I wrote she declines it and she pulls us in her office and she tells us, like, I'm not going to pass this person. I'm not going to let her be your surrogate. And she said, but I'm going to call the gestational carrier agency, is what I wrote here, the gestational carrier agency on your behalf. And she said that, and I wrote this after we had found out that we were going to meet Katie. And she said, I wrote, when our doctor called the gestational carrier agency on our behalf, she said, I have a couple that I started seeing 2 years ago and their light shines so bright. Today, they've just left my office and I'm worried their light is barely a flicker. Makes me cry. And then I wrote, I sure hope Katie makes us parents, but even if she doesn't, I am forever grateful that she has made our light continue to burn. So it was the time, looking back, it feels like, oh, it all happened so quickly. But when we look at the dates, I'm like, man, that pain and that page was.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Kendall, you're going to give me salty coffee. Oh my gosh. Yes.
And then we met Katie.
I think one of the really interesting things is with our agency, most of us have all been carriers. So when I tell them we're going to walk you through it from like the beginning to the end and beyond, it's totally true. Like through all of the things, we are going to be here for you. We are going to help advocate for you. You are a person, your family, like we care for you as a person and your family. And it's really important to me for that they understand that, because that isn't the case with all agencies.
Sure.
So I think that's something really if people are shopping or looking at different agencies, that's what we can bring to the table.
Yeah. Well, and going back on you don't know what you don't know, that education piece.
Absolutely. With surrogates and intended parents.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, an intended parent's going to sit down and hear about the process from start to finish.
Right.
With full transparency.
Yep.
And a surrogate is going to hear about what's happening along the way, for sure.
Full transparency is kind of our jam.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, it would be so easy to just say, like, oh, everything's going to be great. Don't worry. You don't need to know about that. You don't need to worry about that. I'm like, no, here are all the possible concerns. Here's everything that could go wrong in this instance. Here's why this person is not perfect, but why we think that they're a good match, you know, because knowing everything you know up front is key to making sure that you're getting the relationship you want.
Mm-hmm.
So we want everybody to tell us the truth. Tell us all of the things so that we can find the best person to match you with.
Yes.
Because if you're just like, whatever they want, well, tell me what you want so I can make sure we can get you that. Right. Like, you got to tell us.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, the transparency aspect is huge because I think it's so easy to we want to create that picture of hope.
Absolutely.
Everything's going to be great.
Yeah. But it can't be a false picture of hope.
Yeah.
They've been disappointed enough.
Exactly.
No, I love that. And I think, you know, Lauren, you said, tell me what you want. We're gonna do everything we can to figure that out. Mm-hmm. I feel like that speaks into, we get to know you.
Mm-hmm. Want to know you.
Good.
Yeah. No, we do. We do want to know you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Me, You, and Who. We appreciate your time and hope you enjoyed our discussion today. As we wrap, we would like to remind you of some of the ways that you can stay connected with us and be part of the Me, You, and Who podcast community. Firstly, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode and can stay up to date with our latest content. But that's not all. We also have an exciting YouTube channel where we share some bonus content, behind the scenes glimpses, and video versions of our episodes. Head over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button there as well. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when the new episodes go live. And for more exclusive updates, engaging discussions, and a chance to connect with fellow listeners. Be sure to follow us on our social media accounts. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Create a Happy Family. If you're interested in finding out more about creating a happy family, please visit us at www.createahappyfamily.com. Thank you again for being part of the Me, You, and Who community. Your support means the world to us. I can't wait for you to join us next time as we continue to share stories and journeys of creating happy families.